perfect segue to what we're doing today. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Arambha, are we good to start? AV Devatas, are we good to start? We're streaming? Okay, cool. So today, if you look at the framework that was presented a few weeks ago, in that very first section, there is one subsection called Designing Coherent Instruction, with either an activity, workshop, or discussion. Today's session will be about defining what this is. What is the difference between an activity, a discussion, and a workshop? So let's go through it. When it comes to an activity, activities are those kinds of teaching, that have to do with a specific topic. A workshop, combination of series of topics. When it comes to a discussion, it's not about how many topics or anything. Discussion is where the students explore a topic. Let's start with the discussion then. The point of the video was to foster discussion. So Anama pointed out that there was no conclusion given there, just a chance to discuss. Now, group discussions, when it comes to 8th grade and above, every class must have a discussion element. If it's just instruction for a whole hour at a high school level, that's not a class, that's a hostage situation. We gotta get a SWAT team in there to distract them. That's all it is, okay? That's nap time and lectures are only here. That happens here with me, okay? Nap time and lectures can't happen in the classrooms as well. So when it comes to discussion, students should be the ones that really drive that conversation. As a teacher during a group discussion, you're simply a facilitator and a moderator, meaning the teacher speaks the least. Now, if you notice in the video, I didn't go into depth too much with any of these. The questions were very simple about this is the background on it for about a minute, and my question would be about 15 seconds. Discuss with your friends and your teachers. Why? Because to drive the conversation and steer it in a certain direction, we have to make sure that we're not spoon-feeding the kids with our own ideas in there. At the same time, it's not too vague. Specific, pointed questions, and from there, seeing where it goes. Like we were at the middle school lock-in on Friday at main event, right? Because if you're like me and you don't have those bumpers, everything goes into the gutter right there, gutter ball. So instead, when you have these bumpers, even if it goes this way or that way, it keeps it in the lane, at least some pins fall down. No matter how bad of a bowler you are, with those bumpers, at least one pin will be knocked down. That's the guarantee that's given. Similarly, your role as the teacher during a group discussion is to be those bumpers, to make sure it stays within that topic. Now, if they're going in a direction where their opinions are leading to a false conclusion, that's okay. Let them figure it out, let there be objections that come about, but at the end of the day, make sure they're streamlined to come to a common consensus. How is that done? Now, the formatting of discussions, we'll go into each of these. Let me just give an overview of each. Activity means it's about a specific topic that you spend a portion, whether it's 20 to 30 minutes, teaching about the topic, that this is what it is. An activity is something that's hands-on, something that requires them to work in a group, possibly something where there's sheets of paper printed with something, they have to manipulate it somehow, some kind of writing activity independently. These are all activities where you see the direct correlation between this topic in the syllabus, this is the activity that's done. That's a very clear connection right there. Workshop, a series of topics put together, the so-called activity you do for that is a workshop, where it's not just this is the teaching, this is the correlating activity, it's this chunk of similar topics that are there we've gone through the past 4 or 5 weeks. In this one session, not only is it a hands-on or speaking activity, not only does it encompass various topics, but it really makes these topics their own. What is the practicality of it? Sometimes practicality is not always available for every activity. Because the point of the activity, the purpose of an activity is to understand the topic. The purpose of a workshop is personalizing the topics. There's a big difference between the two. To understand something and to personalize something, very different, because one is at the level of what is the material, how do I doubtlessly understand what it is? One is how do I logically go through it, make it make sense for me, not just in this Balvihar setting where the teacher is talking, but in my real life, so to speak, where are the applications right there? So every now and then, stopping and pausing after a series of activities for a few weeks, doing some kind of workshop, that really works well. Like, I'll go to one workshop yesterday that I did for the chicks that'll be used as an example. We can see how different elements are in each for that one, okay? So let's start with activity then. One topic I went through with the chicks yesterday was, because I'm doing every few weeks, the chick group is completely new. They travel, they have weddings to go to, work-related things, the college exams, all of this. Consistency is hard to maintain, as a Dallas chick especially, I think. So instead of slogging through one text, where if they don't come for a few weeks, they feel lost when they come back, that's dejection that they face, I thought, why not do various activities and workshops disparately, all based on Srimad Bhagavad Gita? So this is how we started then. The first activity we did yesterday, the topic is the first thing we come up with. Topic I wanted to do was based on speech. In Bhagavad Gita, speech is gone into very, very in-depth. It's given a sattvic tinge, a rajasic tinge, tamasic tinge. When to speak, speech as an austerity, all of this is given. I didn't want to focus on too much. Again, that could be a workshop. Series of topics like that is a workshop. One specific topic I wanted to focus on was, when it comes to speech, the guidelines are satyam, meaning truthful, hitam, meaning beneficial, priyam, meaning loving. Our one topic for yesterday for the hour was simply understanding how is speech truthful, beneficial, and loving. What was the first activity we did then? As an icebreaker, we went through and saw, I gave a scenario, some kind of scenario, and they have to list what is the typical response in a conversation like this. What is the worst possible thing someone can say using their speech in this instance? What is the best possible thing someone can say? First one I put down scenario was, it's Thanksgiving dinner where people are coming from all over the country, your family members. You have a political difference with the family member. Okay? What is the typical response in that? The worst possible thing and the best possible response. So we had fun with this, them giving. So for the typical response, it was, let's agree to disagree is one. Worst possible response was, they came up with, why does climate change even matter to you? You'll be dead anyway soon. That's one. The worst thing you can say in the heat of the moment. Best response was something like, we all have different views, and I understand your view sincerely. Do you understand my view sincerely? What are the benefits there? Like, productive thing, okay, is how we saw it. One other example, these are college-age kids, right? So a fun one I gave was, someone is interested in dating you, but you don't like them back. What is the typical response? What is the worst response? What is the best response? Typical response is, I'm focused on my career and my blah, blah, blah and everything. I have no time for a relationship. That's the platitude that we hear, right? It's empty, doesn't mean anything. Worst response is what? Not even I don't like you. The worst I've ever heard was, and the kids told me someone said this once, is, not right now, but you're definitely in my top 3. I have a list of people, if it doesn't work out, doesn't work out. Definitely in my top 3, right? They said this. It's actually there. People do talk like this. The last one, the best response is, I appreciate the courage you have to come and tell me. I appreciate your interest in me as well. But, sorry, it's not going to work out. The best response. Or there's thankfulness in there. This. So it's a fun exercise we did. But what was the point of this one? Not just to get them to say funny things. The point was to see 3 columns that we had then with about 5 different scenarios. Typical, worst, and best form of speech. What is the common thread we saw in each? When it came to typical things, where focusing on my career, that's why I can't date, or yeah, agree or disagree, these kinds of responses have no value to them. They're just empty calories right there. Even if that thing is unsaid, it doesn't matter. Even if it's said, it doesn't benefit at all. So we made a connection to hit them right there, right off the bat. Speech should be beneficial. Next column, what is the worst thing that can be said? That's where what the thread we saw in common for all these worst statements was, in that kind of conflict with speech, instead of attacking the logic that someone's presenting or focusing on the points they've made, a personal attack is made on the person at that point. That's the thread that we saw in common. Therefore, Priyam is missing right there. Fight me on my comments. Fight me on my logic. I can respect that. Hari, your workshop sucks because A, B, C. I can respect that. But Hari, you're an idiot for making this. See how the difference is right there? That may be true, but making that argument that way is a personal attack. That's not going to be receptive, right? Final column, what's the best thing that can be said? What we saw was not only diffuses a situation, not only keeps harm from happening, but it's based on fact and it's done in a compassionate way. Therefore, we saw Satyam and Priyam in conjunction right there. So right off the bat, through an exercise like this, it already gets there. All I did was lay out the framework. Scenario is what I gave, typical, worst, best. They filled in the rest. I said what is in common in these columns. They came up with this. So we get to this point now. All right? Now the next part of the exercise then is the group discussion part of it, where after listing Satyam, Hitam, Priyam on the board, my next question to them was, give me reasons why it's hard to utilize these in our speech. When I speak, what are the obstacles that keep me from speaking Satyam, the truth? When I speak, what are the situations from my speech being Hitam, beneficial? When I speak, what keeps me from being loving in my speech? What are the reasons you can give that are obstacles to practicing this sadhana? They came with different ones. The obvious one is it's hard to have speech that is priyam when I'm angry. A deeper one that we went to was loving speech is difficult to do when I don't believe what I'm saying even. I see it as a defect in myself. How can I be loving saying this is what I have to share with someone else? I don't believe it. I don't trust it. It won't come out as loving. It'll be unconvincing and fall flat. Hitam, beneficial. When we both don't agree on what is beneficial, one of us is going to feel it's not beneficial then. Hitam is impossibility. If I'm not on the same page with the person I'm conversing with, similar value system, agreement on the course forward, Hitam is not possible at that point. Even well-intentioned as I give it, the other person doesn't see it as beneficial, or I'm selfish about it, not thinking about them. Hitam is impossible then too. Satyam. When I'm worried about Priyam and Hitam so much, the truth may hurt that person, I don't reveal it at that moment. So they gave various examples that they're facing from their own lives. Something from as obvious as my best friend is dating someone that I don't think is good for them. So Hitam, beneficially, I would like to say something. It's with great love. The truth that I say, though, how do I know it's actually true completely? And the other thing is, they may not appreciate me for that. They may pull away from me. And years later, when they go through that breakup or something, then you say, yeah, at that time I felt the same way. I didn't say anything, though. They'll say, why didn't you tell me then? They'll get mad then. Damned if you tell them now, they'll get mad. Damned if you tell them then, they'll get mad. Complications in that way. When it comes to the workforce, not everything can be said in a beloved way to someone. If someone is working under you, meaning you're leading a team, instructions are just instructions sometimes. When someone screws up, they have to be held accountable. That is beneficial, that is satyam. Coming out in a way that is priyam, difficult to do. So like this, we went on with it. For about half an hour, this discussion took place. The conclusion they came to was, practicing all three in conjunction very hard to do. 2 out of 3 usually I can hit when I speak. All 3 of these together in any practical setting, difficult to do. So then our final concluding part of it, the last 10 to 15 minutes, what we went into was, when it comes to the speech, not in a vyavaharic transactional sense, as a moksha sadhana, what should the speech be focused on? How are these 3 followed then in that kind of a setting? Because oftentimes, we love to speak, but we love to gossip. Or faltu baat, something that doesn't really matter. What's given in Shastra is, the more you speak, don't go into monam right away. The more you use this speech for satsang purposes, talking about spiritual topics, that kind of thing, that results in speech becoming a moksha sadhana. So in that context, we saw satyam hitam priyam. When it comes to satsanga, it's possible every single time. That is the one setting where it's always there. We wrapped it up with that conversation. So again, this was not an activity, not a workshop, simply a discussion. Now, I'm going to stop talking. It's ironic, right? Speech, I kept going on and on. Everyone's still awake, so that's good. Let's go into our groups now. What's going to be the ask? I went through the discussion here, where in that discussion, I was speaking very little. It was letting them really take on and start talking, and I was writing things down pretty much. Adding a tidbit here and there to steer it in the right direction, answering questions along the way. But after I presented that early framework with the icebreaker and the current framework, they took it from there. So in any group discussion to be successful, the full instructions, if they're given in the beginning, of this is what the topic is, these are the questions, ask questions along the way, but the way they can drive it is if they have full information in the beginning. That's one thing to provide. So, this topic of Satyam Hitam Priyam is one part of it. So let's look at the following. What other parts could there be? So I'll just write Satyam Hitam Priyam. Another thing is Maunam. Maunam is taken as a sadhana in speech where I withdraw from the extroverted pursuits, and speaking is one of those, so I engage in silence. Not silence so I can sit and sleep, silence so I can focus on what I've learned in satsang to do more sadhana. That's what that silence is for. Mauna is one more topic with speech. Another is when, where, why with speech. When is it appropriate to speak? How much to speak? Oh, how much is an important one. I'm doing too much of it right now. That's why I didn't write it down. How much of speech? All of this is there. These are different topics. So, what is your task now? In your K through 2nd grade, 3 through 5th grade, 6th through 8th grade, 9th through 12th grade, come up with one more discussion topic, one activity that you can do for any of these 3. Pick any of these 3. Activity is not just discussing it, something that's demonstrably done. Some kind of handout they get, something they can walk away with either tangibly or something that makes them move around, something that's practical in that way. And then come up with one workshop encompassing all 3 of these different topics. And the trick to a workshop, and we'll talk about this later, don't feel scared right away, we're going to go through this step by step. Trick to a workshop is that they come in with a certain mindset, leaving with takeaways of how can each of these different topics apply to their lives on a daily basis, or make them think differently. Coming in with one certain mindset, coming out with a different mindset on what this topic is. So that's a workshop. Is it making sense so far? So you can get in your groups, and I'll give you some time. One more discussion kind. What I presented to you was a discussion. Okay, one more way of discussion of one of these 3 topics. One activity for one of these 3 topics. One workshop idea. You don't have to go full-fledged in everything. It can be just like a 3-sentence thing for each one. This is what we would do. This is the process it would go through. This is the conclusion that we want. That's it. Don't have to go step by step of we break the students up, have them do this. Nothing. Just a few questions then for group discussion. For activity, what would they be doing as an activity? For workshop, what are those topics? How do they flow together? What would you have them do? Okay? So kindergarten through 2nd on that side. 3rd through 5th here, 6th through 8th, and then 9th through 12th. Yeah. One more discussion topic based on Any one of these three. Any one of these three. Where it's that satyam hitam priyam when it comes to speaking, maunam as a sadhana of being silent, and when, where, why, how much to speak. Get creative with it. I gave very, very basic so that I don't want to stop your creativity in any way. It's 11, what time is it right now? 11:08. We can go till 11:30, I'd say. So for our friends in Chitrakoot and Frisco, teachers in Chitrakoot and Frisco, the stream will not stop. Right now it's 11:10 around that. We'll go to 11:30 with this activity of what you're doing, and then we'll come back and debrief. So take about 20 minutes on this. Hariom. All right, and we are back. Frisco and Chitrakoot's teachers, we are back. Hari Om. Okay, now keep it very brief when you share it. I'll repeat it for the people in Frisco to Chitrakoot and to hear, and save your answers as well. You can send them in a group, the Frisco teachers group for your session. You can send in your answers there. I can check there, and just good for other people to see as well. So, the way we have it, pick one representative and briefly and loudly explain what is your discussion idea for this first one, Satyam Hitam Priyam. What is your activity idea for Satyam Hitam and Priyam? Let's start with our youngest group, K through 2. Who would like to be the victim? Yes, Shubhamma. Okay. Okay, so 2 discussion topics. One is the prayer part of it, so doing it that way. And the activity about having them speak extemporaneously, that could be more of activity more than discussion. Discussion is where there's a give and take and a flow. This is still an activity because they're doing it, but related to speech. Yeah?
But the way we connect it to the question is give them that activity. So everybody talk about toys, talk about school, talk about food or something like that. Each kid goes. And then how do they feel about it?
And then it goes to a discussion. So each kid talks about extemporaneously food, their pets, family, whatever it is, how they use speech that way, whatever topic they come up with. From there, that leads to a discussion. Using the elements from the activity leads into a discussion. So that's a good flow right there.
And then the takeaway also is the why, when, how, where,
Yes.
aspect of it. So they, this kind of works on, inculcating how to be present while talking.
So the presence of mind while talking, the how, when, where, how much, that also comes in a further discussion on that. That can be 1 or 2 classes that you do it for.
You connected Maunam as well. And the kids who are listening, how in Maunam, if they are able to focus on what the other, they are able to actually really understand and things like that. So that how will Maunam help in listening?
So in the discussion, even for the discussion to go well, the other kids have to listen to the kid that's talking. You bring then that in, saying Maunam is necessary for that. For that age, that's perfect to do.
So one aspect about the Maunam was because it's a younger K through 2 or 3. So here we said it's not just about the Maunam, of speech, like the literal Maunam itself. It can be the listening aspect one thing.
Yes.
And then the other thing is also Maunam of the body, basically kind of just sitting quietly and listening and not fidgeting.
Yes. Listen and silent are spelled with the same letters. 6th through 8th grade, discussion-wise, what is your one discussion you came up with? For which topic? The when, where, how much, why, yes?
So the activity part, we had 3 things. First one is someone posts something on social media or a message in a group. And in that context, we discussed the when, where, why, how much, who they respond immediately or later, where in person or thumbnail.
So pause right there. One thing they picked up was awesome. I purposely didn't mention. I wanted to see if someone would get there. Social media is also speech. That's the most relevant speech to the kids now because no kid knows how to talk nowadays. All they know how to do is text and get on social media. Am I right? Yes. It's a fertilized patty of a life that we live in now. I'm going to use that again and again. I told you. So that's what we are. So social media, how do we respond? How often? When? In what way? That's an awesome discussion point. Go on.
And the why is it beneficial to respond to one who's responding or to the one who posted or others who did it? And how much when do we stop?
Yes. Awesome. So social media as an example.
The second one was also like talking to parents or siblings to apply rules.
Yes.
The third one was bullying situation.
Okay. So second, talking to parents and friends and siblings. Third is bullying situations then. So when speech has the most likely way to get caustic, how do we handle at that point? Love it.
And the workshop?
Workshop, not yet, not yet. We'll come to that. So activity in this, good, good, good. High school, when it comes to your group discussion topic, which topic was it for? How's it going to go?
Can we like our high school?
Sure.
We are going on nominal.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So we chose when, where, and how much.
Okay.
We tried talking about when would be appropriate with people that aren't as educated about Hinduism and all that, like when it's appropriate to talk about like your beliefs, when it's appropriate to address their beliefs, and how much you can like sort of emphasize your point without trying to shove it into them almost.
Let's pause it right there. Let me explain it to the people streaming. And that's why I keep looking there. There's not someone I'm seeing there. I'm not delusional. It's for the stream. I have to engage them as well. So for School and Chitragut teachers, what our high school group came up with is specifically with speech, with the undercurrent of when it comes to my beliefs as a Hindu, when I talk about it with those that aren't well versed in what the philosophy is, not pushing it onto them, using speech in a responsible way of what do I say, how do I say it, whom do I say it to? This is something that comes up often with the kids is, in history class, they learn something diametrically opposed about Hinduism to what they learn here. They say, I should stand up and say something. Yeah, but I also caution them, your teacher is the one that gives you your grade. And as objective as it is, if you don't think teachers factor in if they like you or not when they give you grades, you're delusional, because they really do. If not at the high school level, definitely in the college level, where they're the Raja, Mantri, and the Rani. They run everything there as a tenured professor. So we have to keep that in mind. All right, go on. Pause right there. So when it comes to furthering the discussion then, bringing in books or something from pop culture, movies, other things that are out there to make these connections. Okay? Is it Never Have I Ever? No? Okay. Because you know I've gone crazy on that one, yeah.
That was an interesting show.
Mm-hmm.
Not that one. So I was kind of like quoting Luke and some part of my dad. And the thing was, when I first had that, like before I had that conversation, I didn't quite agree with that viewpoint. But as I started talking, playing devil's advocate just for the fun of it, it made so much more sense to me. So I think it's important to know exactly how much you're going to, you have to believe.
How much you're going to say. So how much do you believe it? How much are you willing to understand both sides? Then how much are you willing to stand up for your side, understanding what it is? Very nice. Last part now, before we debrief ends, let's go to the workshop part. So quickly explain. The workshop then is having to include all three of these different topics in some way that makes it practical, something outside the box. So let's go backwards this time. Someone else has to speak this time, not the same person, okay? Everyone's going to fall asleep because they don't think they have to do anything. So, Kiranji's not looking at me, avoiding my gaze intentionally, so you are the chosen one, my friend. He was looking at the ground like,
I was collecting my thoughts.
oh, okay.
No, so I was speaking about it from what we are teaching in class in ninth grade.
Yeah.
Right, so Hindu culture. So there is, even if you take one aspect of it, say Karma Kanda, there are various little points in there that we want to make.
Yeah.
Right, so there will be activities that could be around each one of those. Each one of those could spark discussion, and essentially that could be a whole workshop. So take one aspect of
Okay, so take one aspect of what they're teaching through Hindu culture. He's a 9th grade teacher. That one aspect, divide it up into different activities and find a common thread to make a workshop out of it.
And if, like you show us movie clips, we were thinking
Yes.
about anime or Airbenders, Avatar. They do Avatar. It was a long time ago I saw Avatar.
Yeah.
So, yeah, something like that.
So movie workshops as well. I love doing movie workshops. The style that does not work is showing the entire movie and then talking about it. That doesn't work, okay, especially in a Balvihar setting. Different clip packages for multiple movies and put that together. That's what I did for you guys when it came to the materialism workshop, right? We went through 3 different movies, 3 sections from each, scenes, showing how the thinking goes, pausing for a discussion, all of that within an hour. But what a movie clip can show in 1 minute, I can't convey if I had 10 minutes. Seeing, hearing the situation, everything, that makes a huge difference. All right, 6th through 8th grade, what is your workshop idea?
We were talking about like writing journal, like reflecting
Yes.
on what we did in the past, like a week or a day that didn't go as well as we should have, and what we could do to improve, and like kind of watching it over a period of time to see it like makes take corrective action.
So journal writing about speech and corrective action. What I love about this topic, this idea for a workshop is there's an activity that you're doing inside the classroom, pulling in previous things done during a week. There's building on it, saying, how do I correct it? So there's more journaling going on after, not just static for that one class, but goes on. You're teaching them a new skill. In a workshop, that's a big thing. Teaching some kind of new skill, that's technically what a workshop is. Going through it that way, through collaboration. That includes a discussion component. Activities are there. That's what makes your full workshop. Finally, kindergarten through 3rd grade, what is your workshop idea?
So the workshop idea, like our topic, one of the topics was prayer.
Mhm.
Why do you pray? What is a prayer? It's a conversation between you and God. So, and then there, and then so the other one we were thinking about is inclusion when they are at school. The lower grade kids, they have a set of friends and they are. So what can be done to be inclusive?
So different scenarios you can do for that inclusiveness.
Yeah.
So inclusiveness is a topic based on speech. That how can they be more inclusive of people that they don't know well or in school, cafeteria, things like that. Different scenarios you present, and that kind of role playing really helps them understand. That could be an activity more of. So this is the challenge then. For most of the stuff I'm hearing about workshops, they sound too much like activities, right? So a workshop then includes more than one topic there deliberately. So it can be a mix of discussions and activities strung together with a common theme, and you summarize it at the end. So for rule of thumb then, try to do a workshop once a month in your classes. That means there's every single month 3 classes of discussion and activities, 1 class of a workshop where you tie things together. Objection is, Hariji, how can that work? Syllabus is so tight as it is, you're adding something else. No. That 4th topic for that month, do that topic in the ambit of this workshop. Because then there's some kind of tangible takeaway they have, something that they can build on after. That kind of a workshop really works well. You're pulling in previous information to it as much as you can from stuff done earlier in the year, and you're doing it that way. So one cool workshop I saw for Mahabharata, 7th grade, for instance, during the Balvihar was, the problem with Mahabharata often is when you're in a certain part of the story, what happened months ago you forget completely, right? I may know what's happening, name the 5 Pandavas, I can't do after a while because it's so far in the year, you've seen that with your kids. Now, what we can do to remedy that is revising and bringing things in. That if you have, say, a project, workshops work well with a long-term project. Long-term project is a character journal that you have. You're adding different dimensions and layers to the character. Duryodhana's character, I saw a certain part of it after a certain Parva, then that gains more shades of it later. Karna, same thing. So these figures that we have in the Itihasa or Purana finding ways of building on what they've done before and going further that way. That's one really good way to do it. So all of these are ways that we really build on those workshops. So we'll continue next time on it as well. We got to a certain point, but hopefully we can build on it next time. So with that, thank you so much. To those of you in the second session, all the best with the special topic. It's going to go well. Yes, Amma? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
No, this is not. I did ask her, with her kind of thing, it was.
Right. So the question is, how do I gauge whether it went well, if it was effective? There's one thing, and this works for 8th grade and above. Okay, don't try to do it younger grades, 8th grade and above. What one of our teachers at Chitrakoot does is, he goes up there on the board and he writes, for this lesson at the end, ineffective, effective, highly effective. He writes those 3 words on the board, and then he walks out. The kids go up there anonymously, they put a tally where they think the class was. He comes back in, takes a picture, goes home, assesses. He does that every week now. Don't have an ego about that. If you put your heart and soul to it and they say it was ineffective, they may. Okay, that's sometimes how it happens. If you can handle that, you and your co-teacher, do it, give the anonymity. If it's one ineffective, you come in, who was the one that wrote it? Don't ask them that, all right? Keep it anonymous. Don't put a hidden camera in the classroom when you walk out. Don't stand by the door watching. Be sincere with it. They'll also open up. He's a high school teacher, so try it out. Let's see. Let's see if something like that. I was impressed by that. I thought that was a really cool way of doing it. So with that, closing prayers, next session. Thank you, everybody. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Harihi Om.